Hello there, good evening, and welcome back to Gooner Gathering, everybody. I am GoonerLeeMeads, Lee Meadows, joined by the poshest man in sports entertainment today, PoshBertie. How you been, mate? You okay?
I'm doing good. Yes, I'm fine. I'm looking forward to doing another video again. It's
Yeah.
it's been since Monday. So yeah,
It's
looking
it's
forward to
been
it.
a little while, hasn't it? We've had a little bit of time to
Mm.
reflect on a very difficult game against Crystal Palace. Um, do you know what? I wasn't going to. Well, why not? Why not start there? Why not start there? Because it certainly divided opinion on both of us during the live match. And I almost felt I was winding you up a little bit during the match. I'll be honest, because Eddie Nketiah, being the prolific striker that he has been, playing up top, seemed to rattle you a little bit. Perhaps that's a good one to start with.
Before we get into any of that, I do think it's best if we address a bit of an elephant in the room. For any of our regular viewers that know,
Okay.
myself and Lee are massive wrestling fans. Last night, we sadly
Mm.
lost a fantastic mind in the business in Bray Wyatt. Um, this certainly came as a almighty shock amongst all of us, and I just thought, because people know that we're wrestling fans, it's
Yeah.
right to address that and say that he will definitely be missed amongst everyone. You got anything to add on that?
Yeah, I will do. Uh, do you know what? When I think of Bray Wyatt, some of the things I think about, I've just said this to Anna in the other room,
Mm,
actually. I don't necessarily think of matches. I think about his creative brain. I think about the vignettes. I think about the Firefly Funhouse. I think
mm,
about his ability to tell a story. I also think about WrestleMania 36, the
mm,
Firefly Funhouse match against John Cena,
yeah.
where, let's be fair, the world had all shut down. Uh, the wrestling carried on, but it was a bit weird, and it was quite an interest. It was almost like a short film, that match, how it was
Mm,
produced, and it was so entertaining. And the underlying bits that go along with that story is what wrestling is all about for me. So yeah, it's a terribly sad loss. I'll send best wishes to his partner Jojo, isn't it? It's his wife,
yeah.
and I think they've got a couple of little kids as well,
Mm,
which is terribly sad. Yeah, I mean, I would have addressed it later on in the broadcast, but it's yeah, this one hit me just as I was going to bed last night, and
mm.
yeah, it's
Got
troubled
that
me.
news
So
from you actually, because
yeah,
it was just
well,
wow.
I saw the tweet from Triple H, and then
Yeah, okay.
I thought, wow, that's
Mm,
just so sad. 36 years old is no age at all.
mm.
So yeah, that's thank you for bringing that up.
No
But,
worries.
but
So let's move on from this
yeah,
now,
yeah,
and we'll
let's
talk
jump
about
into the
the
football.
back to what we're really here for, and
Yeah,
uh, of course, Husky Harris. How can we
yeah,
forget? But yeah, well, back to the Crystal Palace game.
yeah,
You asked me about Nketiah. Yes, of course, he was snatching his chances, particularly in the first
yeah,
half. But Kel Surprise, as I said, he didn't put it in the back of the net. He ended up hitting the post. Now, maybe one of the other chances he had was a little bit more ambitious,
yeah,
but I think that the post, I think, was one that maybe Jesus would have scored, and that's the
yeah,
frustrating aspect of it. But we'll get to Jesus in a minute
yeah.
because I
Very
know
soon.
there's been a little bit of news regarding him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, but yeah, I think yeah, it didn't really surprise me that Eddie missed that kind of chance, but what do you expect, really? But yeah, I'm pleased we got the win.
Yeah,
Obviously, don't get me wrong, but the past two games, the performances haven't convinced me that we're going to be blitzing through teams. Hopefully, when you know, maybe when Jesus and Zinchenko come back, maybe it might change, but we'll have to wait and see.
fair enough. Well, what I'll say is I'm sort of maybe they're treating it maybe not deliberately, but as a marathon as such. And we've got off to the start of the marathon with 6 points, which is a great start. And yeah, it's had some bumps in the road. Certainly, I mean, if you want, we could always take it right the way back to the Forest game. And after 2-0 and everything looking rosy, to all of a sudden looking a little bit nervy for the last 10 minutes. And I mean, especially after Forest had scored, I always felt the going away at Selhurst Park was going to be a tricky old game as well. And the way we started the second half, actually, I thought was better. And I thought the free kick was brilliant. I rewatched it a couple of times to see Martinelli. I didn't give the credit to on the chat long, in fairness, so I've done that now. The free kick was taken so brilliantly quickly, and I'm not even joking when I say Eddie's run was fantastic as well. He caught the Palace defenders napping, and the keeper Sam Johnston brought him down. And I'm just going to say for FPL points as well, Nketiah's second goal involvement of in two game weeks. I'm just saying, you can't ask much more of him, can you? I know Posh's point. I know Posh's point that Nketiah, and he's a striker, and his goal return will need to get better, is the point that Posh is making. And he's also a massive advocate of changing the lineup a little bit and trying to put Trossard in, which we're talking about during the live match. And I get that point as well. I really get that point. I think it's quite nice to have them options around our team at the moment. And with options in our... there's one thing I will say before that. The way we've held on for... it was actually longer than I thought it was. It was 30 minutes that we held on for being down to 10 men after the dismissal of Tommy Asu.
That's longer than I thought, but I think that's because of the added time that's been added on, obviously. But
I will say they adapted tactically extremely well in a couple of stages. They did ever so well holding on for the win. It took that sort of red card to bring Gabriel back into play. That's an interesting situation we'll get back into in a little bit. But the way they switched formations possibly twice, and we ended up having the game like we probably would have wanted in Thomas Partey in midfield. We had Ben White in the back line. We had a back sort of five, didn't we?
We had a back seven, didn't we? Almost.
It was an unusual 5-3-1
back 10
kind of thing.
In the last few minutes. You love to see it.
But they managed to hold it together. They managed to keep the clean sheet, which in them sort of circumstances against a very good side, in all fairness, I thought was a great effort. Chris Blumsom, hello, mate. Welcome in to the chat. Hope you are well.
Yep, I've seen his name in the chat before. Good to see you. I'm okay. We're just focusing on the game here.
Absolutely.
But I was surprised. Was it 30 minutes? We were down to 10 men. We managed to just about hold on there, which is it's good. And look, don't get me wrong. I'm pleased we've got 2-2 in terms of winning games. That's good and all. And at the end of the day, people are only going to remember how much points you have on the board. But as the seasons, the games are still early in the mind. I just think the way we've played and playing the likes of Partey at right back and trying so hard to fit Kai Havertz into the team, which we'll get to in a minute. We've not been. We've had a perfect. We had a system last season, which in the vast majority of the season, hello Luca, did well for us, where we did very well against various teams. Sure, the latter stages of last season it didn't turn out so well, but of course with the Saliba injury and everything. But most of the time with that system we had, we played very well. and now Arteta's tinkering with it. Is it because Jesus is injured and this is just because he's trying so hard to get Havertz in the team? That's just that's my view of things. But we need to go back to what we were good at last season. That's my opinion, with including Rice in there, obviously.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. There are a couple.
Who was the best player on the pitch on Monday, by the way? Declan Rice. 100%.
That's good. Love the chat with you. Yes, Chris is one of my neighbours, not too far up the road from me. So that's cool. So a couple of things. One of the things I think you're trying to say is what you're looking for in a general point is a little bit more of a convincing performance from Arsenal.
Yeah.
I think is sort of summing it up pretty much. The putting Partey in the right back one is one that is of course it's going to get a lot of talk. It's going to get a lot of what are we doing kind of thing.
Yeah.
I've had a little bit of a think about it, and there are a couple of things that may be going on later in the season which maybe we hadn't thought about. Okay, so hear me out on this one, and I'm not suggesting to any of you who are watching that putting Thomas Partey in right back is something that we will be wanting to do all the way through. But there's a competition that happens in this season. It's called the African Cup of Nations.
Oh yeah, yeah. What's it got to do with Partey playing at right back though?
That's where I'm
going.
We
can get used to having Rice, Havertz, and Odegaard in midfield.
Yes. Oh. So that way, when that international tournament is underway and it potentially could be missing for, say, a month or so, it's potentially easier to move a defence around a little bit than maybe a midfield sort of situation. So perhaps it's a little bit of potentially planning on doing that. It's just a thought. Yes, Luca, we are all great, mate, and I hope you're enjoying your holiday as well. Yes, we're all doing good, mate. Thank you. The other thing I thought about with the Gabriel situation, you kind of mentioned it a bit ago about Saliba's situation, and maybe they are trying to nurse him in a little bit. Perhaps the fact that they've put Partey in at the right back, perhaps putting Ben at centre half with Saliba, meaning that we've got a sort of fresh Gabriel. So just in case we need to switch it round, they're going to perhaps, and we'll get to Kieran Tierney in a bit. We've got a running order, if you like, sort of. We get to it. We'll get to it. Hang around, like, share, subscribe, all that. Thank you. They're going to sort of share the game time a little bit as a result of the fact we are going to have so many games. It was just a thought.
But when you've got them, they're not injured and they're available, why aren't you playing them?
Because they are stretching the game time. They are one. So perhaps, potentially, maybe Saliba doesn't play tomorrow and maybe Gabriel comes in.
Then that would be ridiculous.
Look, I'm just playing devil's advocate as well, you know. I'm not the manager. See, it's not my job.
Yeah, no, I understand. But
I thought I'd put an argument there, you know, for discussion purposes.
Because, no, I just think that and I'm going to say it, we wasted £65 million on Kai Havertz, and now Arteta wants to desperately get him into the team, and that's why he has to rejig everything. Because when you think of our best teams, I can think of two starting 11s. The one that I would have if I was the manager, and the realistic one, which you'd expect Arteta to pick when everyone's fully fit. Havertz doesn't get into any of them. And now he is starting to, because, look, he's a £65 million signing. You've got to get him in some capacity. He, personally, if that was the case, I'd play him up front over Nketiah. But Arteta wants him to play midfield, and that leaves out Partey, and now Gabriel's the one to be sacrificed. It's just...
Okay, on that one, so Havertz is in. He's taken basically the position of Xhaka, basically, but they're obviously very different players. Maybe something that doesn't transmit as well on the television, perhaps like on the game, like we did on Monday night when we are talking above the I don't want to call them professional commentators, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
And we sort of in discussion, maybe there's certain things you don't necessarily see. There's a lot of off the ball stuff that he's doing, getting.
I've been waiting for this because I'm gonna. Okay, carry on.
I let you talk, then you let me talk. That's how it works, because that's how a debate works. All right. So it will open up space for other people. He's also created chances. Spencer did an excellent video, which we did actually try and get it on the channel, and unfortunately technology didn't work and it part loaded and it didn't want to go through. So we put it on his channel instead, and he goes through all the tactical sort of stuff, heat maps and all that sort of thing. It was a really good argument and a really good piece by him. So, and the fact he can play in the multiple roles as well doesn't mean to say he has to jam him in there somewhere. It's just a case of adapting the team as such, are adapting the formation somewhat. That's just my feeling of it. Yours?
I have never seen so much over-analysis on one player from all the fans so much ever. And what I think is a lot of Arsenal fans are trying so hard to convince themselves that Havertz is good, that has put in good performances. Every time I've seen him, he's just been a ghost. But in competitive games, that is, whether it's the Forest game or the Palace game, he's, from what I've seen, he's done nothing. And you get people on Twitter posting all of these like statistics saying, oh look, Havertz has got the most flick-ons and the most layoffs. I don't care about flick-ons or layoffs. They don't mean anything. They don't. And like saying what there was one tweet that made me laugh. I don't know who it was by, but he said, "Oh, Havertz's performance, it was one for the purists." Right, Arsenal fans try and convince themselves so much that Havertz is putting in good performances, but I haven't seen anything of him, just as I predicted. So it's best if you stop trying to convince yourselves time and time again that he is good. I promise you. I don't see it. I don't see what he offers us, and I just don't. The people are overanalyzing the performance too much. If that was someone else, if that was Trossard, you wouldn't have any overanalysis and convincing if this was a good performance. That's my thoughts.
Okay. I think your focus is maybe a little bit wrong. And I'm going to say why. I think your focus on the £65 million price tag. I don't know what you'd expect of him, because he's playing in a midfield position.
We could have got Kudus for that money, but he's gone to West Ham.
So if West Ham have got him, why has no one else?
Because we could have gone for him, but we wasted the money on Kai Havertz, didn't we?
Okay. But, I would say, look, just keep watching him. Let's see what happens. Well, we have a game at home tomorrow against Fulham, where it's going to be another game where we are going to have a lot of the ball, I would imagine. Let's, for the sake of moving on, I think we will. And this is what our dynamic has always been about. Maybe some things we all agree on, some things we won't. Clearly, every single time we do a chat along, we're going to have, here's £65 million waste of space in this position. And
If he does well, if he does well, I'll give him praise.
Well, that's very generous of you, Bertie. That's very generous of you. But fair enough. There's one thing, one bit of analysis I do want to talk about. It's kind of was brought up in the press conference today, but Mikel Arteta was asked about the Tomiyasu yellow cards. Okay. And I think we'll probably agree the time wasting one actually wasn't all him, because I hadn't realised it, and I've watched the game back, so that's how I'm familiar with what had happened.
Yeah.
I think there was probably about 3 players involved in, I'll take the throw on, no, you take it, no, I'll take it. Then Tommy gets the booking for holding onto the ball for about 7 seconds.
Yeah.
The question was asked in the press conference about should VAR or should VAR and stuff, should there be an allowance of appeals on the red cards for 2 yellow cards and stuff like that? What are your views on the VAR and the review? How do you think Tomiyasu was dealt with on Monday night? Because it might be a little bit harsh.
Well, I mean, you know my thoughts on VAR as a whole, but I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah.
But if you want VAR to work, then they should be reviewing potential red cards or rescind red cards or second yellows that happen if you want to properly use it. And I think that the time wasting one, from what I saw, maybe I think it was a lot more than 7 seconds. I think it was a bit longer, and I can somewhat understand why the yellow card was given, especially when we're the officials are now clamping down on time wasting, hence the continuous added time that's been going on. The red card I thought was a very much unfair, because we saw the foul. The foul. It wasn't worthy of a yellow card really that much, but he already got a second yellow, and it was unfortunate that happened. I thought it was really unfair, and we got our first red card since 2022, which is, considering how we've used to play and how we played now, it's quite impressive, really. Because we got yellow cards for Britain, didn't we?
We certainly did
a few years ago. But thanks, Granite. But yeah. I thought it was unfortunate for Tomiyasu, but there are, because of that red card, I think there are questions on whether Tomiyasu probably should have started a left back, considering he's a right back. If only we had a capable, proper left back playing for us that is going to be going out on loan now. But we decided to play a right back in his position, and he got sent off. But that wasn't Tomiyasu's fault. The red card.
No, it wasn't.
I thought the second yellow was really unfair.
And it's said that the team clock on the time wasting is what I was getting at on the first, which was actually about 30 seconds or something. So that's probably what was in the referee's mind. It's funny because shortly after that first yellow card, I said to you, do you think it would be a good idea if we put Zinchenko on? It's a shame that didn't happen. And it sort of restricts our options a little bit. Sort of going for tomorrow. And the result of that, I've changed my running order here, by the way, you probably had noticed. Is of course there's one option for left back is now suspended. One option for left back, as you alluded to, is about to pack his suitcase and head out on loan up to Real Sociedad. Kieran Tierney had a here we go, and it's going to be a loan move. I've made it very clear on other places. I really rate Kieran Tierney as a conventional. That's the thing. It's he's a conventional left back. I really rate him. Unfortunately, we don't play conventional football, which I find hard to work out. It's probably because I'm so old. I'm so stuck in my ways, maybe. All right, and I'll accept
agree with
that.
you.
But But yeah, he's going to be heading out to Spain. I would imagine. I don't think there's an obligation on the buy-in front yet, but we shall see. So Arsenal since 1987 says our defence is now even more weaker. Now, good luck to KT in Spain. The way it's been treated is disgusting. Look, yeah, I do kind of agree with that. I think it's a shame, but then is it a case of are we nostalgic for the fact that he's been with us since 2019? This is where my bit of paper comes in helpful. Let's be fair. He's done a cracking job at left back when we've needed him. Definitely in the group for being a potential captain as well. But
yeah, during the
go on. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I'll say during the dark times of late 2020, early 2021, he was our best player.
Mm-hmm.
I remember saying, I mean, if only if we had a channel during that time where I would have been going off by then.
Yeah.
But I said at that time, the only player that actually tries in that team is Kieran Tierney, and I felt sorry for him having to play for a club that's not doing well at all, and he's giving his all. So
alongside the likes of Socrates and David Luiz
Mustafi, David Luiz, and on a back line full of a lot of bad apples, he was always the lovely Granny Smith. He was always
the old bitter Granny Smith.
There we go.
So this invented nonsense needs to stop. Do you know what though? Here's the funny thing, right? So Man City do it, but perhaps other people have been doing it. Perhaps Liverpool have been doing it a bit more than we realise as well. Perhaps with Trent Alexander-Arnold, because he's the way he sprays the ball around, he is more of a midfield player than a defender.
He's better going forward than he is defensively, definitely.
And it's partly the art of the old school defender. It's kind of vanishing, It's really strange for me from someone who's brought up on that famous back line from back in the 90s, where we had defenders that actually properly defended. It's very weird for me to see. I was going to go back to KT just for a moment and saying he is one of our oldest players in our squad. He is 26 years old. And don't forget that he's had a couple of spells out with bad knee issues. And ever since then, he's really has struggled to get that regular first team football.
Yeah, and that's
do you know what I mean? And that's why there was some talk, like in the summer, like just after we finished off the last campaign, of perhaps he was going to be leaving. And the more I think about that, perhaps it's a case of thank you very much. We appreciate everything you've done. Yeah, it is. It is. It depends how young the knee is as well, I suppose. I don't know. Again, I'm no physician either.
He's still got a lot. At 26, he has a few years left in him. Obviously, even that, we're seeing defenders recently that do very well at 33, don't we? So I think he's got a lot of years left in him, Kieran Tierney.
But I think, as we've discussed, and as this inverted thing keeps on popping up, as you suggested, that it just doesn't suit him at all. And perhaps at the stage of the career that he is at 26, where he still has plenty in the tank to offer somebody, perhaps the move is better for him and his career and his international career as well. So,
I do wish him well. I hope he does very well in Spain. Because I can imagine Spain is somewhere where they might play a lot of inverted football as well. I don't really know. It just seems like it. I don't watch La Liga that much, if not at all. But that's
all on a pay-per-view basis now, isn't it? So it's a little bit difficult. it's something I'm going to keep an eye on, and I'm sure we'll get some reports back from that one.
I
So
hope.
go on,
I hope he
if you
does
want to.
well, but if people think that he plays well and we're gonna start playing him again next season, you've got another thing coming, I'm afraid, because look at Balogun. Did very well in France. He's now being left out of the squad, and I think the same might apply to Tierney if he comes back next season, unfortunately. So I think that yes, it's a loan move, and he will inevitably come back, but he won't get any time next season if he comes back, unfortunately. And I think in the long term, we will regret that, because there will be times, a lot of times, where we will be found out with our inverted football. And there'll be times where I think if only we had a proper, traditional left back who could stop this, who could stop Zinchenko from getting caught napping or something like that. But there'll be times where we'll think that. I think we need him. But I just think that in the long run, I think this is a decision that we will regret. Because yes, when you play inverted football, it's always good to have a backup tactic where you can play non-inverted football and have that left back there to make sure your back line is solid.
I suppose the only thing I can add to that is that whoever plays as fullbacks, as general rule, there will be times where they are going to need to be a little bit more. I think the word's disciplined and holding on. Like we spoke about going to the places that are going to be tough, like City and like the others, obviously the top contenders. There's going to be times where we are going to need someone that stay there and let the midfield players do their job, I suppose. Then we don't get outnumbered. But when that happens, we'll cross that bridge, I suppose. Again, it's we could spend the whole evening talking about the ins and outs of inverted football, and I don't, and I'd rather like to watch Chelsea versus Luton in a bit, but
relegation 6-pointer.
Yikes! as you just offended all the other side of West London, right?
I'm sorry. I apologise to Luton fans for comparing you to.
No, you shouldn't do that. Shouldn't do that. Right. So shall we we spent sort of about half an hour sort of looking back. Perhaps now's a pretty good time to think about what could happen tomorrow. And here's some real positive news. Do you know what?
Do you know what? I'm actually. You're gonna hate this. I'm all for it. I think we should do it. I do. I'm sorry. A lot of people have convinced me that it's the case. Nketiah isn't good enough. Havertz isn't a striker. Balogun's going. There's not a lot of realistic options in the market for a striker that we can get. Tony is the only one I think that we can realistically be able to get with the money that we fund, that we're going to be getting for Balogun, and if we get rid of Tavares and etc., we can afford. We could be able to afford Ivan Toney. I think he's a realistic option in my opinion. Yes, I know people might not like it because he's got a misdemeanor in his
his history.
But realistically, he is actually quite a good option to get as a striker. And he's even said in an interview, he is up. He maybe it's silly mind games, I don't know, but it's either Liverpool or Arsenal he'll be interested in going to. I actually think he suits the way we play, personally.
Right, look, with Ivan Toney, I've said this numerous times. I'm sure I'm going to say it again. As a player on the pitch, I'd really rate him. I said it on Jez's thing on the chat yesterday that you see how he plays. He reminds me of Ian Wright playing at his absolute pomp. He's got that uncanny ability of playing in football, putting the ball in the net. His runs and everything like that are absolutely second to none in the Premier League. I will agree with you. And his rise from non-league to championship to that season in the Premier League, absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, and he's got a terrific goal record all round in his game. My worry about this one is that, you just said about wasting £65 million on a certain other player, right? So if you just say, I don't know where this £60 million price tag's come from. I don't think Brentford have said we want £60 million for him. I've not heard a whisper of that at all. I don't know why we think that we could get him. It's just my views here, guys. So this is, just, I don't know why we think we can go out and get him on the cheap, if you like. I don't know what makes that people think that Tony is going to leave Brentford or Brentford wanting to sell him. But then if they do, just say they do in the next week, well, with the transfer window is active, and they go and say, well, just for argument's sake, put £60 million in for Tony, and just say, I don't know, perhaps Jesus plays a bit tomorrow, picks up another injury on his knee, then we've got another striker down. Then if we put all the money on Tony, which we can't actually play until January, why have we just wasted £60 million on someone we can't actually use?
One of the many issues last season when we lost out on the title was our lack of options up front. Nketiah had a good game against Man United in 2023, but I think that was about it, really, in that year. And Trossard and Martinelli could play up front, but they're not out-and-out strikers. And I think that was one of the things that we missed. And also, you compared the potential for 60 million Tony's price tag to Havertz. The difference between those two is Ivan Toney has scored goals and plays well. Havertz for Chelsea has scored one goal in the Champions League final, and that's about it. Which is good.
You need some stats in front of you for that one, mate. But I get your point. Okay. I know what you're saying.
He was top scorer for a Chelsea side that was very underwhelming last season, finishing mid-table with 9 goals. So, but look, we need we do. Anyway, Arsenal since 1987, Ivan Toney scored 20 league goals at Brentford. No disrespect, Brentford. The players we have in our team, he could get 20, 25 Premier League goals a season. I hope, and we needed a bit of a striker boost in January last year, I think. And if we did that, I do think who knows, we might have got the title over the line. Who knows? But I don't want us making the same mistakes. If we're in the title race come January, I don't want us making the same mistakes that we made that made us lose out on the title last season. Yeah. So that's why I think Tony might actually be a good option, because yes, I know that the whole misdemeanor in his history, I get that, but we've seen at Brentford, it hadn't really made an impact on his performances on the pitch.
Yeah.
And I think what Tony did, there are other footballers that have done a hell of a lot worse. So, yeah,
I agree with that. But the point still stands that he does have this active suspension, and just if it does go belly up and it happens, then are people going to be saying, "Oh, but Arteta spent all this money on a striker when he can't even play him"? I can see that happening. Honestly, that's how I see it happening. But do you know what I mean? But this one will be resolved in a week's time, one way or another. I really would like to do a Gooner Gathering stream soon, where I don't have to mention Ivan Toney's name. I would really like that.
It's like when we did, like in January, where we couldn't mention Caicedo's name.
Yeah. It's like one of them recurring ones that keep on popping up all the time.
Yeah.
We
didn't get Vlahovic 2 seasons ago. That was the issue.
Yeah.
Where we needed a bit of a striker, but it didn't happen.
Yeah. It's funny because the January window when everyone was shouting for Modric, and how well he's done for Chelsea since.
one of the debates is maybe Mudryk wanted to play for Arsenal. He didn't necessarily want to play for Chelsea, but because we were so slow at negotiating, he had no choice. But I think in hindsight, I think we would have probably dodged a bullet. It's only 2 games into the season. I mean, who knows what Mudryk will do? But but I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But so far, Mudryk has been very much underwhelming at Chelsea.
Okay. Hashtag Ivan Tony. How about hashtag I ban Tony? Can we move on from the Ivan Tony thing now, please? Thank you. Because what I wanted to talk about, hilarious PoshBertie.
Oh, did I tweet? Did I put that as Gooner Gathering? I thought I was doing that as me. Oh, okay.
Yeah, hashtag Casado. Right, okay. Making the start for Chelsea tonight. Let's see if he can do better than he did against West Ham over the weekend, eh? I was hoping to get on to Gabriel Jesus.
Go on, do it. Let's do it.
So as we know, he started the pre-season. Actually, was in pretty decent form, but he was still having knee issues from the World Cup in the winter. He missed the Emirates Cup. He was going to go into surgery for a procedure on his knee. Perhaps in a little bit of a surprise move today, Arteta saying he's back in full training and available for selection for tomorrow. So it'd be nice for Nketiah to have some backup for tomorrow. He won't have to play the whole game.
No, yeah. I will say, I hope we're not rushing him back.
My point.
Because I think, because don't forget the injury he had was on the same knee that he got injured with last season.
Yeah.
So one of the things we don't want him becoming a constant injury-prone striker. We don't want him becoming the Jack Wilshere of strikers, essentially. So we want. So I'm hoping that we don't rush him too much. So I can probably see tomorrow we will probably end up starting Nketiah or Havertz up front and Jesus on the bench. That's what I can see happening.
Yeah. So why play Jesus when you've got God?
Exactly.
But look,
couldn't have said it better myself, Lee.
Thank you very much. No, the point you just made is an excellent one. In that we are going to need Jesus during the whole season. We need him fit and well, and maybe again, is not that out and out goal scorer perhaps that everyone's talking about. But you know what? It's a great option to have amongst that front line. Let's hope he isn't being rushed, and it's just great to have him amongst our squad again. Especially being that it does seem like Balogun is going to go next week without him really having an impact in an Arsenal shirt. But that's probably ancient history by now, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah.
But and as I said, with the transfer window closing next week, you never know, right? I mean, I just see Felix's move as just to Saudi Arabia has just collapsed apparently. So maybe we go for Felix again. That's not a bad shout. That
is not a bad shout. I think people might say, "Oh, but he didn't do that well at Chelsea." But I think again, it's. It's the Chelsea reject thing kind of does come to mind. But in my defence, he hasn't been there for that long. He was only out on loan. He's an Atletico Madrid player, essentially. But there is definitely still a player in there in João Felix. I don't think he was used properly at Chelsea under the tutelage of Graham Potter or Frank Lampard. I think. Who knows what may happen? Anyway, I've got a feeling that Party will be right back tomorrow. Yeah, exactly. Because I don't want to be in a situation where we're going to play 2 inverted fullbacks. Because that would leave a lot of holes in the defence. I would have. This is the starting 11 I would go with tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely.
it's a toss-up between Ramsdale and Raya. I think probably Ramsdale might still end up being in goal. I would go with White at right back, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Partey, Rice, and Odegaard in the 3, Saka, either Trossard or Martinelli. I don't mind. You know what I would prefer? Probably Trossard, and I'd actually have Havertz up front because I know that we want
ahead of Nketiah. Then obviously,
yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, because I know that Arteta wants to desperately fit him into the team, and you kind of have to with the, like I'm going to mention again, the price tag we signed him for. You kind of have to keep him in there early in the game, but and I would go for him up front. I'm putting you. I know Nketiah's in your boys' stable, Lee, but I think he's going to have to be on the bench for this occasion.
Well, we'll see. I think you are right because of the suspension with Tomiyasu. I do think Ben will be back at right back tomorrow, and then the first choice centre backs in play. Gabriel, Saliba, and Zinchenko will do the I word. But we shall see how it all plays out. All right, but Guardiola's always got their reputation of breaking people's hearts during fantasy football. Perhaps that's going to happen again tomorrow. Who knows, eh? Who knows? What else was I going to... I had something on my head and I was going to bring it up and I think it has just gone. Let's talk about Fulham, shall we? Because I think we're probably quite right to bring up Marco Silva's side. So they are coming into us perhaps not in the greatest of form after they got beat last week 3-0. It was a home defeat to, funny enough, Ivan Toney's side.
It all links up. It all joins up.
It's all together, is it? Interesting, by the way, that Ray is getting into the Arsenal since 1987 squad. That's very interesting indeed. But I, for what it's worth, I think we'll see Raya debut in the League Cup in probably about mid-September next month.
I think he won't debut in our first Champions League game. It depends who it's against, really, because you don't really. If it's against, if we get like Real Madrid,
can you imagine debut a new goalkeeper in your first Champions League game? Like in a few years, I'm sorry, what?
Can you imagine who plays Partey? If we get like Real, I don't know. I think it might be in the same pot as Real Madrid. Actually, we're in pot 2. But Bayern Munich, for example, and he plays Partey at right back. He plays Zinchenko at left back. Plays Nketiah up front.
Okay, it'll be a good time, right?
The meltdowns on YouTube would be, as Bobby Roode would say, absolutely glorious, and the evil sadist in me is actually wondering what may happen if that happened. But
okay,
no, surely not.
Right, can I get us back on track with what I'm trying to get at, which is the Fulham game? They fell apart to Brentford. They do have a suspension in their ranks as well. Very important defender, Tim Ream, not D Ream, but T Ream is going to be suspended. I guess the player that they brought in to replace the gap in their defence was Basie last week. I suppose we've got to think about Fulham. When we did that game last year, do you remember the threat you told? We were talking about Mitrovic and the problems he had caused us. Well, he's gone. He's out to Saudi. Has been replaced by the former Wolves striker Raul Jimenez. I like your thoughts. I'd like your thoughts on that.
I think he's a good player. Maybe a few years ago, he was definitely a really, really good striker who I really rated. Compared to maybe some other strikers, I think he might have gone off the rails a little bit, but he's still a decent enough player. But I don't think him on his own, my famous last words, will be enough for Fulham to get a a bit of a shock result here. But I do agree we should be beating Fulham by at least 3 goals. Hopefully we'll do what we should have done against Nottingham Forest, and that's, put the game to bed and try not to take our foot off the gas a lot.
Nikita, a hat-trick coming up.
I hope so. I hope he does.
Yes.
I don't want him to do badly, just so I'm proven right.
Yeah.
I want him to do well.
On Jimenez, if you remember where his trouble started, ended up, he had that really serious head injury, fractured skull at the Emirates, if you remember. So, I think Fulham have taken a bit of a risk in going all in on him. But there you go. There was the wrestling reference you wanted. But it's replacing one striker with a big pedigree than for another one. So I will talk about that. They have got 1 win and 1 loss on the record. They did start the campaign actually with a very impressive away win at Everton, and Bobby DeConda-Reid was the guy who scored the goal. They set up away from home in a 4-3-3 formation, so perhaps we'll be looking like so if we do our inverted nonsense with ours as well, they'll be looking to outnumber the midfield. So perhaps that's where Arsenal will be looking to get a decent result and get a few goals past them. Perhaps that's potentially what we're looking for, isn't it? Did you want to put an actual scoreline in? I'll go for a 3-1. How does that sound?
I was going for exactly the same. I was going to go 3-1 as well. We'll go. It'll be quite similar to the Chelsea game at the Emirates. We'll go 3-0 up. We'll probably take our foot off the gas again, and it'll be 3-1. But we'll hold on to it. We'll hold on to the lead quite comfortably.
Okay, fair enough. The only other bit of news or something else I did want to briefly mention, it's just like a bottom line tag, just a little bit of news just to keep everyone on track of what's going on. Tyrese John-Jules is a striker that you might not really be very familiar with. 22-year-old striker that did spend last season on loan at Ipswich Town. Today has joined Derby County. Again, it's a loan. Obviously, 22 years old, he's going to be wanting to get some sort of decent football in his career. So, move to Derby. Are they still Championship? I think they are, aren't they?
I think they're in League One.
They go down to League One, did they? Fair enough.
2 seasons ago, I think.
Fair enough. Well, let's see how he gets on. Obviously, at 22 years old, it might be getting a bit sort of too late to make an impact in an Arsenal shirt for Tyrese, but I do wish him well on his way to Derby County. One other sort of note as well. Well done to the Arsenal under-21s who went to Swindon Town during the week in the EFL Trophy. Drew 1-1 and they won 5-4 and penalties. So,
well done to them for going to the city of Swindon as well. I mean, good God Almighty.
Anything could have happened up there. No, I'm joking. I'm only joking.
But yeah, no, congratulations to them. Well played.
Absolutely. And I think that will probably just about wrap us up. Obviously, Bertie, you're going to Ebbsfleet tomorrow, aren't you? So
of course I am. Kidderminster Harriers at home.
Fantastic.
So yeah, that's who we're playing. So there we go.
So we are going to have a bit of a break tomorrow. So I'll be on daddy duty tomorrow afternoon as well. So we shall resurface at Gooner Gathering on Sunday, early-ish evening, I would imagine, at this sort of time, to discuss what had gone on over the weekend, I think, mate. So with all that being said, thank you, everybody who's been in the chat and hanging around and contributing to the Even Tony debate. It's been very interesting, and I'm going to put him in the banned words. I'm joking. I'm only playing. So, Bertie, before we disappear, my friend, you know the drill, sir.
Yes, you can follow me on X, Twitter at PoshBertie, and my Instagram is at Bertie Wanless.
Thank you very much. You can find me at GoonerLeeMeads. You can find us at Gooner Gathering on X, on Twitter, on the TikTok as well, with funny little clips and silly little bits of music going on. It's all good fun over there. Facebook page as well. Don't forget to give that a like at Gooner Gathering over there. And until we see you on Sunday, take care of yourselves. Come on, Arsenal, and we shall see you soon.